We have all heard that term at some point or the other, on TV, radio, the internet. But what is it really? Climate change is a long-term shift in the climate of a specific location or region. The shift is measured by changes in features associated with average weather such as temperature, wind patterns, and precipitation. Climate change is happening here and now.
In our business, we've invested significantly in walking the talk when it comes to climate change. We have a lot of resources put behind our LPG switch initiative. Over 40 million homes in Nigeria at the moment cook with dirty fuel. So every day with every meal they make, they are contributing to the climate change issues.
The focus on the environment has taken a new dimension. Little wonder the theme Raise Your Voice and not the sea level. There's a new consciousness for the environment, and in Oando Gas and Power, we subscribe fully to the concept.
Based on well-established evidence, about 97% of climate scientists have concluded that human-caused climate change is happening. Average global temperature has increased by about 1 degree Celsius over the last 100 years. This seemingly small change causes a huge impact on our world.
You know, when we were growing up, we used to know that there are some months that you don't see rain. But nowadays, you see rain in any month of the year. Sometimes when you expect rain for a whole month, you don't see rain. You have the ice melting where there's supposed to be ice. Then when you are supposed to have seas, you have dry land showing up. You have an increase in flooding, increase in droughts, and general change in usual weather patterns.
You know, the reality is that man's activities over the last couple of hundred years have been impacting more and more negatively on the environment. And if we impact negatively on those processes that provide us with our planet's life support systems, like the oxygen, like the water, like the arable land, then, you know, what are we doing to the future of our children?
Most of our daily activities result in adding of the greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These are relatively big contributors to the climate change. We are at the risk of pushing our climate system towards abrupt, unpredictable, and potentially irreversible changes with severe impacts.
Climate change is going on, and this climate change is causing aberrant weather patterns, and it's also causing situations that could very much get out of hand, get out of control, like the melting of the Arctic ice cap. And if it melts, the seas are going to rise. And if the seas rise, then the coastal areas are going to get flooded. They're going to become more and more inundated. And not only will the seas rise, but you have more virulent weather occurrences. You have these hurricanes and super typhoons off the coast, and these things will raise huge waves. And then you get huge waves hitting the coast and just causing total havoc.
We are already experiencing the impact of climate change, and this is escalating over the coming years. Arctic sea ice has been shrinking dramatically, and the rate of loss is accelerating. The melting of the Greenland and Antarctica ice sheets has also accelerated notably. Glaciers continue to melt rapidly, contributing to sea level rise and also affecting water supplies around the world. The oceans are absorbing much of the CO2 emitted into the atmosphere. As a result, the oceans are rapidly acidifying with early impacts of shelled organisms such as oysters already documented. The current acidification rate is likely the fastest in 300 million years. As the world has gotten hotter, many of the world's plants and animals on land and in the oceans have begun moving towards the poles. Extinction is likely to increase as climate changes combines with other human-related environmental pressures. Over the past 100 years, sea levels have risen by about 10 to 25 centimeters and counting. As a result, storm surges are higher. Saltwater infiltrates wells and aquifers that coastal communities depend on for fresh water, and the extent of coastal flooding and erosion has increased. Climate change has changed patterns of precipitation worldwide. Flooding in Nigeria has been increasing, especially over the last several decades. Areas such as North Nigeria are witnessing more drought as a consequence of climate change. Since 1950, heat waves worldwide have become longer and more frequent. Heat waves cause deaths and illnesses with urban dwellers, the elderly, the poor, and certainly other vulnerable groups. Climate change has amplified the threat of wildfires in many places. Warming has also led to wildfires present in some regions where they have been absent in recent history. Storms and floods can injure and kill victims and contaminate drinking water supplies. Some air pollutants increase with climate change, with the potential to aggravate heat and respiratory diseases. Climate change affects the life cycle and distribution of disease-carrying vectors, such as mosquitoes, ticks, and rodents, which transmit diseases.
Here we are at an erosion site, a classic erosion site on the Lekki area, and it's been well attended to. The Lagos State government have intervened very aggressively, but it's a very expensive intervention. They're having to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of naira here in order to alleviate this problem. And this is one of the classic cases of the kind of problem that you face when the oceans rise.
The sooner we act, the lower the risk and cost. There is much we can do, particularly by tapping Oando's strength in innovation. Oando is one of the most resourceful and innovative companies in the world, with a team of problem solvers.
What Oando Marketing is doing is it is seeking to switch 5 million homes over 5 years to LPG from dirty fuels. And so that's the first initiative. I would say that the group, the company, the team, and myself are focusing on a lot of energy and a lot of cash.
We process natural gas and sell to industrial users who are the biggest culprits when it comes to industrial emissions. We also manage our methane content in our fuels by putting in place world-class pipeline integrity management systems. We have a cathodic protection system. We check for leakages. We reduce in all ways any emissions into the environment. We are managing our business using the environmental quality management system, the ISO 14001 standard, and everybody in the organization is committed to that standard. We are all conscious of the environmental impact of our business, and we're taking steps daily to manage it as we progress.
Oando Gas and Power Limited is at the forefront of what may be described as a gas revolution in Nigeria. At Oando, we are raising our voices, but our actions are speaking louder than words.
Top environment and energy saving tips. Look out for the Energy Saving Trust logo when buying new kitchen appliances. Switch off anything that uses electricity. If you are not using it, turn it off.
There's a lot we're doing to change the way we live. So some attitudinal changes to ensure that we walk the talk when it comes to raising our voice and not the sea level. Our new building, for example, is built with a lot of these initiatives in mind. So first and foremost, we've spent a lot of time and effort to ensure that the building is naturally lit. So there's a lot of glass, very little requirement for artificial light during the day. We focus also on energy-saving appliances and bulbs. We've also focused on ensuring that we have motion-sensitive appliances. So they're parts of the building where after a period we get savings because there's no activity there, and indeed there's no need for those parts to be illuminated.
I think in taps as well, in bathrooms, you can have motion-sensitive taps where when you wash your hands, when you put your hands under the tap, it comes on for a certain period of time and goes off. So it just saves you from leaving the tap running by accident.
I believe everyone can do something to reduce pollution, from the man walking on the street to government. Some of us, we can try to reuse things like recycling products we've used before. For instance, instead of getting multiple nylons from the stores when we go to buy things, we can reuse those bags, and this helps to reduce pollution.
Put timers on electronics that will turn off at the same time on a daily basis. Don't waste food. Plan your meals so you buy no more than you need. When checking on the progress of your food, look through the oven window rather than open the door, as heat and energy is wasted every time you do this. Ensure that when cooking, you don't use a small pan for the size of a cooking zone, as this allows excess heat and energy to escape around the edges. Run your dishwasher only when it is completely full. Carpool with friends and co-workers. You minimize carbon emission and save on fuel money.
Switching off the lights during the day, switching off the lights when you're going home, switching off your air conditioning, recycling paper, not printing if you don't need to. In Nigeria, by not throwing things out of your car window.
Oando Gas and Power is in the forefront of making sure that companies change from burning unclean fuels to burning clean fuels. Oando's contribution is by driving the map and the change to natural gas from companies that either burn diesel for them to convert to natural gas.
And what we have done as an organization over time is to educate our people about the impact of pollution on ourselves. We actually feel like the impact of pollution is something that is deferred into the future. But we can see today the impact of pollution. And we constantly educate our people through the HRSQ office to understand what the impact of pollution is. And then we actively engage the education of the same issues to the general public.
We try and be responsible citizens, so we're responsible for the communities we're operating. We try not to pollute those areas. We try to empower the people that live in those communities.
We should only consume what we require.
It is important that we do whatever we can to sustain the environment. The more you abuse it, the weaker it becomes.
Everybody will agree it's better to raise your voice than to raise the sea level.
Raise your voice and not the sea level.